Hello, welcome right back. Now let's treat the aggregations. What are aggregations? While annotation adds field to each object in a query set, aggregations calculate values across the entire query set. Let's take this for example. In the post we had, each comment, we try to get the count of each comment in a post. So each post in the database represents an object of the query set. So annotation works with each of these objects of the query set, while aggregation works across the whole query set. So aggregation is used particularly when working or trying to get a data across the whole query set. So the major difference is I would list and adds fields to each object for annotation, while aggregation calculates the across query sets. For annotations, one row per object, while aggregations, single result row. For annotations, efficient for object-specific data, and for aggregations, it's most times used when you wish to get a statistics view set. Now let's quickly wire up a quick stats for our post. So let's have a class post stats. And then because we want some custom operations, we want to use our API view. Now I would not work with that. So let's have our post equals. So we want to have three fields. One is the total post, the average comment on the post table, and then we want to have to return the number of posts having comments. Now we query all objects. Then we have dot annotate, or rather aggregate. So with this aggregate E, so inside here we have the fields we want, say total post, then we count the ID, then we want to have average comment, then we use the Django model average field, then we count average comments. Okay, let's have it in this way because this field isn't within the operation. If we had to do an aggregate right here, we would have used that, but in this case let's get the average, and then we have a Q so we use the Q, or rather we're going to have the average rather of the comments. That's the count of the comments, and then we want to count the ID of that, each ID of the comments. Now finally we said we want to get post count with comment. So we count the post with comment by including a count here, then the ID of the post, counting it, and then we filter the count, we add the filter key. Our query set comment is null equals false, which means we want to get all the comments that are having comments in them. So with this, okay, let's wire this to a URL. So we have our path stats. All right, so let's head back here, and we have a start misuse of aggregate function count. So let's check where we misuse that. A misuse of aggregate function count. Okay, let's remove this. We take the aggregate, sorry, close this. Now, okay. So we see this is returned now. We needed the average, not the aggregate, not the count. So the average does the arithmetic operations behind the scene and gives us this is the fields, or these are the fields that we asked it to provide. However, let's check this. This is our post. It's 4 here, but why are we having 8? It's something to note that this comment we have here has caused a join within the SQL operation that gets this post. So because of that, it's having to recount the ID. So we're going to be on the safe side by using distinct true. And then we're also going to have distinct true here. Distinct true. So with this, refresh and we can see that we have the accurate post. So we have comments of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 comments and 4 total posts and 2 posts with comments. So this becomes the average. So with that, we've learned or seen how the aggregate works or operates. So let's also look at conditional annotations. So conditional annotations, we use case and when. So what are conditional annotations? They add dynamic flags to your data based on certain conditions. When certain conditions. So case and when statements allow you to perform conditional logic at the database level. So this is how it works. Let's say we want a comment count greater than 5. We have a value of high, and when we have a comment count of greater than 2, we have medium, and comments of less than 2, we have 2. So let's go to our list create. Let's get to our code. On our list create, on this endpoint, we would still want to have case. Let's add we want to achieve case